What does that even mean, Bowers Game Corner?
Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again at 8 for another game review. And today I'm very excited to check out Cult Following from Bravely Told Games. This is for 3+ players, take about 15 to 30 minutes per round of this game. It's for ages, I'd say 14, 15 plus. And in Cult Following, you are going to be playing as a cult leader for most rounds, and you're going to be trying to pitch why your cult is the best or why someone should join your cult using 3 various different buzzwords that you were handed at the beginning of the round, and then concocting those into your own unique story about your cult. There's also going to be one person at the table who is a recruit who wants to join a cult, and they're going to decide which cult they'd like to join based on your story and also based on a question that they ask you after your pitches, and then you have to answer them completely on the fly. What am I talking about? Let's open it up, and I'll tell you what I'm saying. Alrighty then, we're going to take a look at what you're going to get inside of Cult Followings. First of all, it's your handy dandy rule booklet. I don't know, it's about 8-10 pages, double-sided, and it's pretty well done. It should have you up and running in no time at all. It's also a very simple game, so I can teach you how to play right now. So in Cult Following, everyone at the table each round is either going to be a cult or they are going to be a cult recruit who will have to join one of the cults. One person will be the recruit, and they will decide which of the cults makes the best pitch and which one answers their question the best, at which point they will award them this card, and the first person to get to 2 of these cards will be the winner of the game, however many points you want to play to realistically. So let's walk through the components, and then we'll get into the gameplay. So first, you're going to have these purple cards right here, and these purple cards are going to be double-sided, and they will have 2 different ideas that you will need to weave into your story. One of these 2 ideas you'll need to weave into your story. So depleted natural resources, one day repeats forever, mysterious fog, giant radioactive lizards, reality is a computer simulation, once every 3 weeks, unquestioning obedience, various different aspects here that you will need to weave into your pitch. All the while, the cult recruit is going to be sitting here waiting for everyone at the table to pitch them on why they should join their cult. And then once that's happened, they're going to ask this question. One of these questions on this card. Why do I feel empty inside? Why did some members of your cult leave and form a splinter cult? Who does your cult use as a scapegoat? Describe your cult's outreach programs. Various different stuff that you are going to be asking, and then you're going to decide who has got the best answer, who has the best cult, and you're going to award them that card. So let's show you exactly how it works. So everyone's going to start the round with 5 of these cards right here, and you're going to get rid of 3 of the cards. So let's say I'll keep this one, and you know what? I'll keep these ones, and I'll get rid of that. So I'm going to keep 3 of these cards. Everyone's going to do this, and now we are going to make a pitch to the person in the cult. Now, one thing I want to mention that it specifically says in the rules is that you should be referencing other people's cults, bad-mouthing other people's cults, if you potentially want to in this game. So, for me personally, I am pitching them. You need to join the cult of Bowers Game Corner. It is decided. It is now. You will die if you do not join me, because anarchy is about to take over. Anarchy is about to reign all over the world, because little do we know another species is about to take over, and that species is the penguin. The penguin is about to take over. Have you noticed that the penguin has been growing and growing and growing? The penguin population, other animals are going extinct, slowly dying out. Why do you think that is? You open your eyes. That's because the penguins are about to take over the freaking world. They've spread from continent to continent to continent via either the weather or via zoos. Yeah, you think the rise of zoo popularity in the last 30 years is a coincidence? Use your head. Use your head. It's not. The penguins are about to take over, and they're about to kill every single one of us. But luckily, we have the answer. The second coming is coming, my friend. The second coming is coming. Yes. Little do we know, Kmart went out of business a couple of years ago, and Kmart was one of the biggest leaders in the anti-penguin movement. But Kmart is coming back, and we are going to be running a Kickstarter to bring Kmart back to the masses. That is what our cult is about. We need to get Kmart back so we can stop the inevitable penguin uprising. Don't use your head and join my cult. So that would be a cult pitch right there. That'd probably be a pretty decent cult pitch. Everyone else is going to pitch their cult as well, and then eventually they will answer the question. So then they might ask me, so why did some members of your cult leave and form a splinter cult? So at this point, I would now have to answer that question based on my specific cult. So I'd say, why did some members of your cult leave and form a splinter cult? Well, I'll tell you why. Because they were brainwashed by the Pro-Penguin Coalition, a.k.a. Walgreens. Walgreens and CVS, now that they merged together, has been running a coalition for the last 15 years to put Kmart out of business and to woo members of our cult into their upper management. If you want to know something pretty eye-opening, let's talk about some numbers. Let's talk about some facts. Let's talk about some statistics that I'm going to lay down on you. 15% of Walgreens upper management are former members of our cult. 15%! Let that sink in, buddy. Let that sink in. You think that's a coincidence that 15% of the people who used to be in our cult are now big wigs working at Walgreens, smoking cigars, drinking Diet Dr. Pepper? No, that's not a coincidence. That's because they're splintering off because they're getting that money. They're greedy. But I know you. I know you. That's not you. You are going to join us and you are going to help us lead this overthrowing of those penguins, which is why you should join our cult and not join Walgreens. So there you go. That would be the pitch right there. I might win the card. I might not win the card. But either who, you're going to discard all these cards. You're going to draw back up to 5. A new person is going to be the recruit after they've awarded this card to somebody else. And then you're going to rinse, wash, and repeat until someone gets 2 points or however long you want to play. And that, in a nutshell, is how Cult, the one true game, is played. Alrighty then, Cult following from Bravely Told Games. What are my final thoughts? Let's go over the pros, let's go over the cons. First, on the con side, game's not going to be for everybody for a variety of different reasons. First and foremost, the theme is going to be darker than a lot of people are going to want. It's going to talk about murder, it's going to talk about ritual suicide most likely. What do you know about cults? Think of all the things you know about cults. They're probably all bad things, so as you storytell, it's probably only going to get progressively worse, which will be a turnoff to some people. Just so you need to know the theme is deeply ingrained in this game. Another comment I have with this game is the storytelling game. Obviously, if you don't like storytelling games, this one is not going to change your mind because it's just pure storytelling. And another thing is, especially with if you're the first person to have to answer that question at the end of the round when the recruit asks the question, you need to be thinking on your toes about your answer to that question, which is going to be a turnoff to a lot of people. Another thing is the game can stretch out very, very long. It can outstay its welcome, especially at the larger player counts, because each and every person at the table, except for one recruit, is going to be coming up with their own cult story, and then they have to answer the question the recruit asks, which means rounds literally will last 15 to 30 minutes, like it says on the box. And if you're playing at the higher player counts, that definitely the game can't outstay its welcome. Another comment I have with this game is that it can fall flat. It can definitely fall flat with the wrong group, and I had that happen. And there's going to be people who are just going to say, my cult is about being polite, but not really meaning it, boy bands, and marking your territory. And then everyone secretly at the table is going to hate that person and say, hey, Carl, how about you develop an imagination? We're all just spouting out wild stuff, and you're just too timid to even come up with a little story. And yes, we all hate Carl, but yes, if you have a Carl in your group, this game might not be for you because obviously Carl's probably not going to enjoy being the one sore thumb in the group as well, so you need to gauge your group with a game like this, but obviously that's pretty true about all storytelling games. That's what I got on the con side. You need to know that the theme is dark, that it's a storytelling game, that there's no real strategy except for pitch to the audience and be a good storyteller. But moving on to the pros, I really enjoy what Cult Following does and how it separates itself from other storytelling games in the market. So there's a couple things that I really like about this game. First and foremost, the theme is deeply ingrained. This feels like a game about being a cult leader and trying to pitch someone to join your cult. The questions are realistic questions that I think someone joining a cult might potentially ask, and I like that. I also like the fact that the round is not over once you've explained your cult. In most games, it's just, hey, here's my cult. Here's my story about my cult. Haha, whose story is the best? Boom, we're done. No, this one adds that extra little layer of having the recruit ask questions to you. And one thing I love that when a game makes me do is think on my toes. I love thinking fast. That story I came up with in the middle, that was just me just spewing something out. And I love doing that in games. And this one does that very well because you have to come up with your story, which for a lot of people is going to be difficult, but then you have to defend your story or answer a question about your story or answer a question about somebody else's cult. And I like that aspect. Now, that being said, that is another con of this game is that you need to be paying attention to other people talking because you might potentially get asked questions about that other cult. So you might come up with this absolutely outstanding story about your cult, but if you don't know anything about the player to your right's cult and they ask you a question about the player to your right's cult and you have no answer, then you're probably going to lose the round. So you have to pay attention to the game, which really, should I say that's a con? I feel like you should be paying attention in a game, period. I mean, half the fun of this game is the storytelling, so you should be listening to other people's stories. So let's say that's a nitpick. Another pro that I like with this game is there's a good diverse amount of cards. All the questions are double-sided. all the Colt attributes are double-sided. You're going to start off with 5. You get to pick 3. So essentially, you have 3 choices out of 10 each time. So there's going to be a good variety. You're never going to hear the same Colt pitch twice, which I like. I like games that give you a little and expect you to make a lot, and this game does do that. The package is small, it's packed, it's portable, compact, it's portable. So in the end, Cult Following is a storytelling game that I definitely can recommend and I can enjoy if you have the right crowd. And that's the biggest con here. You know, you have to have the right crowd. If you do have the right crowd, I think you can have a lot of fun with this game. If you have the kind of crowd that pushes the limit, that doesn't mind talking about some adult material like joining a cult and who has thick skin when it comes to that sort of thing, I think you're going to have a lot of fun with Cult Following. I know I personally did. It's one that I'm going to keep on my shelf, despite the fact I have a lot of other storytelling games. I love storytelling games, though, so you need to take all that with a grain of salt because I do really enjoy storytelling games. And if you do as well, I think you might enjoy this one. If you enjoyed this review, please be sure to click on that subscribe button down below in the comments below. Let me know. Would you ever join a cult? For me personally, you know, cults are a really interesting topic. I feel like when we think of cults, we only think of the negative aspects of cults, but really, isn't just being a sports fan kind of being a cult? Like, I'm a cult of the Denver Broncos fan. I live and breathe Denver Broncos. When the Denver Broncos do something, when they make a big move, when they make a big trade, I immediately am obsessed with that trade, and I will consume hours of media telling me about the move that the Broncos make. I religiously, yes, religiously, I use that word right now, you know, make sure that I carve out 3 hours of my week every week to watch the Broncos play when it's football season. And then I try and carve out additional 6 hours or 9 hours out of my week so I can watch other teams play that might have an effect on the Broncos. Like if there's a Raiders game's on, you better believe I'm going to watch that Raiders game and root against them. So the fact that I'm a Denver Broncos fan and I'm in this cult of Denver Broncos has instilled a sense of hatred in me for some other inanimate object, which is in fact the Oakland Raiders and the New England Patriots and the Kansas City Chiefs and the Los Angeles Chargers. I hate them. I have a general dislike of the players on their team because of this cult that I'm in, which is the cult of sports. And it really makes you think about, what is a cult? Apple versus Android. Is that a cult? You know, Xbox versus PlayStation versus PC. Are those cults? So where do we draw the line on cults? I feel like this is a really interesting question that I should address in another video, but I don't do videos like that, so I'm sure someone else can do that. But let me know in the comments below, whatever it is I asked. Man, I really went off on a tangent on that one. Yeah, thanks for your time, YouTube.